Garg. I hope you're all excited for our chat today with Srikrishna Dwaram, partner at True North, and Joylyn Largo-Afonso, head leadership hiring at True North. Welcome, Sri and Joylyn, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Let me
For the
start
opportunity.
first. My first question for Sri. So, Sri, True North is one of the oldest private equity firms in the country. Founded in the 1990s, and it has seen the evolution of the private equity industry over a long period of time. Could you please share some highlights from True North's journey and how your investment philosophy has, either stayed the course or evolved during your lifetime?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, as you said, I think we have been in the industry for about 25 years. I would say, I guess the industry's history also is largely around the same vintage. So we have had the benefit and the opportunity of observing the industry evolve, and to continue to remain competitive and relevant in that evolving industry, we've also evolved our strategy. So maybe if you allow me a few minutes, I'll talk about at least how we saw both the industry evolve, and in that journey, how we evolved our strategy. I mean, late 90s is when we got started. We had a very small fund of about 150 crores at that point of time. Um, we obviously saw a lot of opportunity in the Indian mid market at that time, and the product that we were providing was unique for that period, which is private equity capital investment into these mid market companies. But what we also felt at that time was that many of these companies would benefit from some sort of collaborative engagement from somebody like us, who can then work with the founders, entrepreneurs, to bring in high quality professional management teams, put in systems and processes in place, governance, IT, finance, very basic for that period, but those are relevant for that time. And also something I guess unique about True North, even when we started, was the realization that the skill set that enables people to do good quality investments is different from the skill set required to truly be collaborative with the companies and the partner companies that we invest in. And so right from the very beginning, we had a mix of investment partners and operating partners as founders of True North. As then, and that model, to some extent, by some companies were probably seen as potentially interference in their business, but some companies saw this as very value additive and were very open to engagement by us. And wherever we invested, we found very good quality success. And as things evolved, as we started raising our second fund, third fund in the mid 2000s, we found more support from international LPs, and with greater amount of capital at play, and also some confidence that we developed within our own model and playbook. We started doing buyout slash control transactions in opportunities where we had founders or promoters looking to exit businesses. And I would say for a period of time, almost a decade or so, we were fairly unique in that approach for in India, albeit in a niche market. Just to put some numbers in perspective, maybe early 2000s, the Indian private equity market was only about $1 billion, maybe even less than that, and hardly any controlled transactions.
That's right.
By mid 2010 range, I think the industry has increased by 10x, maybe about $10 billion, and 5 to 10% of that used to be controlled. So in that market, we were very unique. So that experience also had helped us quite a bit in terms of how we further fine tune our engagement with companies, how we look for high quality professional management teams and work with them in building value within the companies that we invest in. However, as the industry progressed further, there was a lot of growth. As you know now, I think the industry is almost 50 times the size of what it used to be in early 2000s, $50 billion in the range of, and still growing. Within that, I think the controlled market opportunity also is very large. It's almost become 25-30% per annum. And more importantly, I think we have very mature, very high quality private equity players also doing control investments in the country. So again, as I said, how we evolved to remain competitive in this kind of a more competitive environment on the control market. We started about 10 years ago our journey on sector focus. Initially, we started with three sectors: consumer, financial services, and healthcare. But over a period of time, we also added IT services. So now we focus on four sectors. Within those sectors, given the amount of opportunity that exists in the market in control, we still believe about 50-60% of our portfolio will be controlled, but we are open to doing other kinds of investments. But our model of being very collaborative with the companies that we invest in, trying to find value add that we can provide to those and work in tandem with them continues to remain the same. So to that extent, it has not changed, but it has evolved, and we've become probably better at it, I would say.
Thank you, Shri. So, like you said, you've really seen the industry literally grow up and reach where it is today. And, as a firm, True North, and as a team, True North has really navigated that evolution. What do you think are some of the key factors that have helped the firm in, continuing to consistently invest in this market and achieve its goals and maintain a strong position over a period of multiple decades?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think being able to understand the way the market is evolving and appreciate the fact that there are very high quality players in the market. It is a very competitive market. The partners, companies that who are looking to partner with potentially one of the private equity funds, whatever be the type of transaction, will have multiple options from very well-known brands, quality people, all of that. So I guess having the humility to that it is up to you to be able to do whatever is required to make yourself sort of the preferred partner for your partner company. And how do we do that? I think the good thing now is the market is very deep. There is a lot of opportunity. Many of the companies, or almost all the companies that we invest in, are reasonably large. There is not that much value in discovery of those companies. I mean, we are not an early stage investor, so these companies are can be well known or can be discovered fairly in advance if you put your head to it. And then we once we identify that these are the kind of companies that we would like to work with, these are the kind of management teams slash founder teams that we would like to work with, the onus is on us to um, um, find some means to figure out how we become their preferred partners. What can we bring to the table beyond just capital? Of course, not having to pay the highest valuation just to win the transaction. That's not what we'd like to do. And I think this journey towards sector specialization has helped us, I would say, get better and better at having clearer and clearer vision of where we want to play. And once you have that clarity, then where you want to play means which sectors, which subsectors, and within those sectors, which kind of companies, which kind of management teams. And once you have that clarity, then I think the key challenge for the deal teams that we have, or sector teams that we have in the firm, is to establish that, do everything possible to try and establish that preference, knowing fully well that who we are competing with in industry are as good or even better names than us, right? So
No, thank you, Shri, for that. I just want to double click on this conversation on sectors. And you mentioned that you started with a focus on three sectors and now you've added a fourth one. But it is still a very focused investment strategy that you follow. Now, some of these sectors, healthcare, financial services, consumer, they are getting disrupted today, so as to speak, and a number of new age businesses and business models are being born. So, how do you, as True North, and how do you suggest private equity firms in general? How would you like to look at these new age models and, in many ways, evolve yourself?
yeah, I think very relevant question. And it's a hot topic for it has been a hot topic for us as well as for many of our peers for the last 2 3 years. And it is true that a lot of these sectors are I mean, there is a generation of companies. I'm trying to avoid the word disrupt, but there is a generation of companies that have come up that have found new ways of making themselves very more relevant or relevant to the end customers and consumers in each of these sectors, and they have taken share by reimagining possibilities of various business models. And we do believe that in the next 5 10 years, when a reasonable proportion of each of the subsectors or sectors that we look at will have companies which, as we call, digital first, having material shares. That's one, I think, journey. The second, I also believe that there is a huge, maybe not as much talked about, movement towards the maybe the more the old generation companies also sort of catching up, playing the catch up in terms of um, integrating the best practices from these new age companies. So there is a convergence happening around these two. And also it is true, I believe, that for the companies who have started, let's say, digital only as a channel, they're all becoming hybrid businesses or trying to become hybrid businesses. This is not a new term trend. It has been there for the last 2 3 years. So what are digital first businesses are trying to become more hybrid businesses. What are more non-digital businesses are trying to become more digital in their nature. So there will be a convergence. And there is also, as we see, previously it used to be that the talent pool is fairly unique and mutually exclusive, but now I think there's a big fusion happening between the two, each joining the other side. So we actually see, like, people like us actually see a lot of opportunity for us to help these new age businesses in that journey. Of course, as I said, our business is not to invest in early stage companies taking business model risks, etc. But there are large businesses who have already emerged as reasonably leading players in some of these subsectors that are of interest to us, and who are, I would say, in a journey of getting to maturity in becoming from pure digital to hybrid. And we believe somebody like us, we have a very unique approach even here, right? In the sense that most of the investor base that this sector has attracted largely, I would say not all the time, but largely are more VC, whose engagement model is a little different from what we are trying to bring to the table. And whoever we engage with have actually welcomed us, saying, if you would like to participate in as an investor, we would be more than happy to have you in our cap table. Of course, the type of investment will be a little different because we will not be the sole investor, neither will we be the control investor. But that's a mind shift that we've already taken. But having made that mind shift, I think we are very relevant and important as a potential investor for many of these companies who are emerging leaders in these new age businesses.
So, slightly moving away from this topic, Shri, I wanted to, talk to you about the private credit fund that True North has recently raised. So, why credit over equity after decades of rich equity experience? And do you think multi-asset and multi-strategy firms are really the way forward?
Yeah, I think we have kind of discussed, debated it internally within the team before we walked this path. Obviously, the most natural thing for us to continue to do is to grow our own business as much as possible. But there is a limit to how much we can grow and how much our investors are willing to invest in country-specific funds. There is a certain it's an increasing benchmark, but there has always been a benchmark on what is an appropriate size for a standalone country-specific fund. So that's one aspect of it. But we also felt like there is a lot of experience, a lot of relevance and good quality identity that we created for ourselves. There are multiple areas in which we can extend that. And the reason why we thought of private credit is because, one, a number of our companies that we engage with may not necessarily need equity as a solution. They may maybe be better off with structured credit as a possible solution as opposed to equity, and they're actually looking for it. That's one part. So it's largely catering to the same sort of customer base that we are engaged with, possibly amongst the partner companies. That's one. Second, private credit is the one asset class where we believe in India over the long period of time has the potential to scale significantly, potentially even larger than equity. And many of our investors or key investors are really looking for ability to deploy capital at scale in a country that is emerging like the promise of the world for the next 10-15 years. So that's also we hoped that if we if we initiate a product, I mean, the first fund, obviously, as you know, how difficult it is to raise. So do the hard work, deliver good quality results, show that the true north way of doing business can be implemented in one other product category. Eventually, the large investors that we have on the equity side also potentially may take a liking and become potential investors in that as well. I mean, they do invest in credit across the world. It's just that they are not yet investors in our fund. It's first time fund. Most of them don't invest. So we believe that there is a lot of opportunity to scale. Eventually, it's a great team. They've done very well till now. We really have to work hard to close our fund, but that's something that we expected. But we are very happy with where we have reached and how the team has shaped up, how the portfolio is looking, what they've been able to do already in terms of number of transactions. Yeah.
Shri, you had said something on the lines of humility. And, just hearing you speak and, just hearing the ethos that is treating the private credit fund as a first-time fund, thinking of yourself as a first-time fund manager, looking at the journey as being a learning journey. I think that speaks to the depth and character of the team at True North. And I think that is probably one of the big reasons of how, you have consistently delivered. You have stayed in the market where we have seen a lot of funds and fund managers, move on and do different things. So clearly, there is something to the people that we have at True North. And, with that, I wanted to turn to Joylyn. And, another thing, Sri, that you had referred to was this whole control orientation and the model of engagement that you bring with companies. So, True North is one of the earliest PE firms, in my understanding, that really adopted an investor operator approach and brought on board senior people with really deep and number of years of operating experience. So, Joylyn, could you share how the firm approaches talent development and how does it ensure equal opportunities and support for individuals from diverse backgrounds?
Okay. So Nupur, this is my perspective, but we at True North, I think, do not look at diversity as just a headline number. Although it has happened, and we are starting to see real good active participation by women in most of our functions. To name a few, CFO, legal, hiring, admin, the investment team across analysts and VP, the company secretary, ESG. But within the firm, I think our belief is strongly that it is in the small things where it really matters. And the overall strategy of True North, I would like to think, is a strategy of very nuanced policies and norms. And let me look at it in two parts. So there are very clear policies laid out, which are unequivocally diversity friendly, but I think now have transcended to gender neutral and beyond that to now inclusive. To name a few, the parental leave to both primary and non-primary caregivers, healthcare policies covering dependent parents on both sides, L&D, policies to upskill, counseling and mental health facilities, employee wellness programs, and also conscious efforts taken to reiterate and re-emphasize the values of the firm with the entire organization. We've also embarked on a Power of Purpose workshop that has been extended to employees, spouses, partners, and children. So that's one part. But it's also in the norms. See, diversity is not just gender. It cuts across age, it cuts across life phases. And while the world celebrates uniqueness, I think what the firm does is also accommodate uniqueness, because that's important as well. There are times when people go through tough life situations, adversity, illness, and the firm has been steadfast behind them. During COVID, for instance, not just employees and their families, but every single employee in the partner companies and their families were top of mind. We at True North are also sensitive that sometimes one gender has to pick up a lot more burden, and we respect that situation and give a lot more freedom until that situation resolves itself out. So for me, it's this, overall strategy, a combination of both policies and norms that sets us apart.
I think that's absolutely amazing, Joylyn. So, how have you seen the leadership's role in building this culture and really advancing diversity and inclusion within the firm and ingraining it in the firm's culture?
Okay. So if I look at diversity in the sense of gender, I think a lot of funds struggle with low women participation. But I would like to think True North has made a concerted effort to hire diverse, not just diversity candidates. And more importantly, not in or through a search process. Okay. So when you're looking at a search process, at that time you're trying to meet multiple criteria. It's track record, richness, operating experience, right culture fit, diversity. But I think TN's success in having a good ratio here, because we are hiring diverse talent at different levels, is putting a culture and a program in place to groom them. And, let me admit, this is a slow moving needle. It needs to be handled at a funnel level versus just hiring or letting the hiring function solve for it. So
Yeah.
it gets down to the fit element, which has many dimensions and I think has also been an evolution over time. We always talk about track record, a hard track record, important to have a seat at the table. We talk about maturity and judgment as being very important. We also talk about being a trusted advisor to a promoter, a board member, a strategic thinker. But most investors have a good sense of this, from evaluating deals to forming thesis, that sometimes comes with an investment track record. Um, I would like to say that if you break it down simplistically and not say it adds to the complexity, it's largely about the additional dimensions also of working with teams. A person who is collaborative, a person who is involved in coaching, training, mentoring, people who have fellowship. These become important factors. And then, of course, retaining good talent becomes the defining factor. Now, funds and companies have realized that the biggest factor of success is actually having stable teams that go deep. And then it becomes about good culture and good people leadership. So if you check, funds that have been able to retain people have, in my opinion, inevitably done well.
I would absolutely agree with that, Joylyn. I think that's well supported by research as well. But you know, I think the private equity industry per se doesn't have a lot of data that has been presented in terms of attrition, in terms of the impact of attrition on performance. But I think just intuitively and based on how it applies to, the rest of the sectors and the other industries, you're absolutely right. I mean, the ability to work with a team that understands the strategy, the approach, how to do what the firm wants to do, and not have that disrupted, it would be incredibly powerful. Joylyn, you spoke about some of the policies, gender neutral policies that you have. Is there any particular initiative or projects that True North has undertaken that you would be willing to share with us? Some
I,
details, if you possibly could share.
I think it's largely around the ones that I spoke about. I find myself repeating myself if I say, parental leave and healthcare policies, a mentorship program, encourage a work from home flexibility and a good work life balance. um, as I said, the Power of Purpose workshop, safety for women, a very strong portion, whistleblower policy. So, I don't want to make it,
So let
yeah,
me make okay. So let me then ask you specific questions, right? So you spoke about starting the work at the funnel, and then talent management, retention, etc. Um, can you throw a bit of the light on the starting at the funnel bit? Because one of the challenges that the industry faces is a relatively thinner pipeline when it comes to women wanting to enter the industry. As compared to the male candidates, the number of female candidates that that we see is lower. And then there is this whole concept of unconscious biases that creep into the selection process, the evaluation process. So, as somebody who uh, seems to have gotten it right, given the number of women that you have across your functions, is there like a secret sauce to how do you solve for it? I know yesterday I was uh, in a conversation, and they were talking about this one firm that said that when they have to screen CVs, for example, they start with the female CVs. Because they say it's human tendency that if you find your required shortlist in, say, the first 50 or 100 candidates, you will not look at the rest. So they sort their candidate pipeline, they start with the women CVs, and only if they're not able to find a short list or a long list from that pool do they extend to the other. So is there something that you do at True North?
yeah. So I think, rather than say start with a shortlist only of female candidates, we ensure that there is a viable pool of diversity candidates in every function that we look at, but the outcome and the hire is meritocratic. I have to say that.
Right,
So,
right.
but we do not start a process till we ensure that there's a good representation of candidates, be it male or female, in the pool of candidates. But that's not how. But we don't restrict it only to a gender hire.
Yeah. And I think that's a brilliant point, because ultimately merit should not be compromised.
Sure. Yes.
And merit cannot be compromised. You cannot compromise the performance of the business by any means, and you cannot compromise on uh, a hire's feeling of their place in the firm, right? I mean, everybody wants to believe and feel that they earned their place in the firm, so gender should really be out of the question. So totally appreciate that. You also said something about safety. Have you seen instances in the investment team where women have felt uncomfortable in traveling to certain parts? Because this is something, again, that we've heard in different conversations from both women and from fund managers about how this industry could require traveling to non-metros. Has that ever come up for True North? Has that ever been a concern?
Well, I think women's safety is of utmost importance, and it's in the fine things that we take care of. The timings of the flights, what time they leave the house, what time, encouraging them not to take late flights back home, or if they stay back late in the office, making sure that there is someone to accompany them if they so wish. So it's available for them to use at their discretion. So yes,
Yes.
it's a very important part of how we treat our employees.
It's really amazing, Joylyn. It's really amazing. I think the number of steps that True North as a firm has just taken, and how you have integrated these. And I think you'd used this term earlier. Those little things, those small things, into how the firm functions on a daily basis, and how that has really created a culture that has led to consistent performance, to outperformance, and to building a really lasting firm and a lasting brand in the industry. So, thank you for that. I have one question that has come in. I don't think it is completely applicable to our conversation, But I just wanted to see if Shri would like to consider taking this question. Is there a role for AI to play in how private equity firms are looking at investing or investment decisions?
Uh, we may have lost you, but I think I got the question, which is that is there a role for AI in investment decisions? Um, so let me take a shot at it. And again, it's a very current topic in our firm, and maybe I can share some of our own journey in what we have done at True North over the last many years now. So there are various initiatives typically that we end up championing, sometimes evangelizing, and then once accepted, then championing them within the portfolio companies. For example, uh, you know, em- employee engagement and how do you get that? Every company now in our portfolio company, I think in our portfolio is maybe GPTW certified, ranked, etc., etc. It's almost passe now. Similarly, I think digitization of businesses and their business processes and the way of doing business. As I said, many of the companies that we invest in or have invested until now are non-digital first businesses, and but they need to be able to compete and not get disrupted, as you said. And so, what I think 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I don't remember exactly. So we ended up first initially evangelizing these use of algorithms. AI was not yet there at that point of time. We used to call 3A, analytics, algorithms, etc. So there, and then when one somebody asked, or we all ourselves realized, we are championing all of this. Whatever we're doing within our own firm, we seem to be thinking that our business is different and it doesn't never get impacted by any of these technological developments. So, and this is largely, I would say, Vishal's initiative. He took it upon himself to drive a True North digitization initiative that eventually ended up creating a product that we call Kelp, and that actually eventually now has been created, carved out, and it's an independent company of its own. But Kelp was a system that we developed. There were maybe 3 years ago, there used to be some 20 data scientists sitting in our own office building that. Of course, we use it fully. Largely algorithms. A large part of that work is the engine that helps us to now make discovery of these important companies, sort of the universe of companies that exist in India. And when it comes to IT services, not just in India but even outside India, we need to be able to classify in various subsectors, and within those subsectors, uh, rank order whether they're good, bad, ugly based on certain rule engines. This process we've been at work for the last 7, 8, 9 years. I would say all our IC processes run on Kelp. All our investor relations engagement is on Kelp. All our portfolio engagement runs on Kelp. Now, coming to the specifics of your question on AI. So this is all based on, I would say, having data, then access to data, then cleaning that data, and then using algorithms and rule engines to be able to make the data give you what you need. But now we are increasingly being able to even make that process even more efficient by having access to these AI engines. For example, the big question for us, or big challenge for us right now that we have walked the IT services path for the last 5, 6 years, unlike the other companies, IT services companies are all over the world, and of course, we are only investing in companies that have a strong India connect. But identifying those companies is through this process is very challenging. But given the access to all these new engines that we have, and obviously the intelligence of the team that we have at Kelp, we've been able to figure out how to parse through various LinkedIn data, various websites, scroll through the websites of various companies, and then shortlist companies that we think we should focus on. Yeah, it's very much part of it. I wouldn't say. I mean, I can't say whether they're I mean, it's an effort to there are tools available now, and that we have been trying to use and make ourselves better. Certainly on various aspects in certain sectors, I think we are very. I think our process is very refined. In others, we are being able to. I mean, I see the light at least. Let me put it this way. But hot topic, a lot of effort and focus on this, and I do think there is a lot of impact that it can create on the investment process as we go forward.
Really, I'm grateful that you took a shot at answering that question. I don't think it was really applicable us, but it did come from there. So, Sri, while I have you here, how do you see private equity evolving in the
Yeah, I think we lost you.
We lost, yeah.
Sorry, we lost you.
Shri, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
I think we are having issues with StreamYard connectivity today. Hi, Joylyn.
We can hear you, but it's breaking up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we can do, we can get started. Let's see.
Joylyn, can you hear me?
Yes, it's breaking up, Nupur, but go ahead.
I think it's StreamYard because I just tested my bandwidth. I wonder what's going on with StreamYard today. I'm not able to see Shri.
Oops.
Hi, can you hear me?
It's
Yeah.
much clearer.
My sincere apologies. I really don't know what is happening today. We've never experienced trouble with StreamYard. I think we've done some 20, 25 sessions on StreamYard so far. I really don't know what's wrong. But I think I got disrupted in the middle of my question to Shri. Shri, I was asking about you. If you did some crystal ball glazing, then how do you see P evolving in the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously are very positive on the industry. I think the the quality of people that are now there, the depth of talent that is there, the more recent performance. Historically, I think it is a fact that the industry, while it was maturing, probably hasn't delivered to the expectations of our investors. I mean, ultimately, we exist for delivering what our investors seek from us. But that has changed tremendously over the last, I would say, 5-7 years. The India macro opportunity continues to remain very robust, and on an absolute level, maybe even higher on a relative basis, I would say now. And market opportunity in terms of number of companies coming, requiring or looking forward to doing this, and many of them also possibly becoming control opportunities where sponsor-owned businesses will thrive. I think I feel like very positive. The interesting thing is a lot of this value creation, unlike in the US, I'm not saying that model is bad. It has delivered outstanding returns, financial returns, but all of this value creation that has happened largely has been driven by revenue growth and margin expansion, which is essentially means that the the investor and the management teams, our founders, have been able to work together to deliver outperformance in the industry in that particular subsector. So that makes it very sustainable, I think. And we will also get maybe better and better access to financial structuring options as well, that to make the returns even better for our investors. But that's not what I want to highlight. I mean, that may be just an additional kicker. But really speaking, I think the growth opportunity and the margin expansion opportunity remains solid. And we have now built confidence, conviction in terms of a playbook. Well, different people may have different playbooks, but how do we engage and deliver outperformance? I mean, I wouldn't say that everything that you invest in will succeed, but I think there is enough specializations that each of us have developed to be able to sort of find opportunities, continue to find opportunities, and potentially larger and larger opportunities where we can deliver outperformance together in partnership with the founders/management teams. So I clearly see this industry doubling in the next 5-6 years. Control opportunities probably growing even faster within that, and somebody like us hopefully will continue to remain therefore more and more relevant, given our track record in having done so many transactions of that nature. Yeah, so very, very positively inclined. You're on mute, Nupur.
I thought I had stopped doing that. I'm sorry. I was saying that sounds fantastic, and cheers to outperformance. Joylyn, from your point of view, from your vantage point, how do you see the industry evolve from a talent point of view, from how firms operate, the culture, etc.?
Um, so I joined True North exactly 5 years ago. So let me talk about what I've seen in terms of broad trends from a. Let me start with the hiring side. So if I look at the investment side or the investing side, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a lot of active hiring in the private equity space. There was a lot of senior level hiring happening. And this was because there were new funds coming in, there were some funds getting reshuffled. And my personal experience, however, has been over the last few years, this market is a lot more steadfast. There are a lot more steady teams. There is internal succession happening. And so there is a lot more stability. So the shift I see here is fewer senior level hiring on the investment side, but a lot more activity on the mid-level side, associates, VPs, etc. This is slightly different if I look at the operating side. With humility, but with a sense of pride, I want to state that True North has always been a pioneer and has always had a strong operating team. But in the last 3 to 4 years, I've seen funds really build out their operating teams, both at senior level, mid levels, and I would dare say that until 5 years ago and now, the operating teams in most funds have grown 2x or maybe even 3x. If I look at it from a talent perspective in terms of investing roles, the shift at senior levels has been from looking at perhaps investment bankers, management consultants, to talent with perhaps prior investment track record, because now there is an availability of this investing experience as a viable talent pool. The openness to hire non-investing backgrounds still happens, but it happens more at associate, senior associate, VP level. Um, on the operating side, if I look at it from a talent perspective, there are three primary architects. Consultants with some corporate experience. They play a generalist role. They run transformation programs. Functional leaders, I've seen CFOs and CIOs, and then you have the industry leaders, of course, which is what True North has. Diversity continues to be an issue, and a focus, I think, for all funds. A lot of programs being run, and I end with it back, to the fit element. Hiring people who are able to just not deal with uncertainty effectively, but also turn that into opportunities wherever possible, given the level of automation, the macro uncertainty, just the ability to lead or to nimbly through chain, being vulnerable, being transparent, and that means sometimes, intentionally hearing out conflicting views, but the focus continues to be values. And our belief is that it will only get reinforced, unlikely to change, perhaps, double it down.
Thank you. I can't wait for my rapid fire section to start, but we just got another question, a little bit similar to the earlier one. But Shri, would you like to respond to Srishti Verma? She's asking, how important is it for a fund to be data driven?
Yeah, I think the banal answer is it is very important. Of course, I think a lot of ultimately almost every decision that we take is data backed. But I think if you think about the three fundamental aspects of a transaction at the time of transaction, you have to be in the right subsector. You can't, it's very tough to be against the winds of a certain subsector. That I think that decision can largely be taken on the basis of data. You have to be in the right company within that subsector, which also potentially can be largely taken on the basis of data. The middle part, which is what we spend a lot of time and where Joylyn has been, they has basically championed all of that effort for us, is to be partnering with the right people that actually eventually will deliver those outcomes for us,
Right.
management teams, founders, etc. And that is very tough to be data driven. That is a lot. I mean, we are trying to make it as much of a science as possible by having clarity and improving those processes as to how we determine whether a certain person or a team of people can work. I mean, it's not just about a person, right? It also has to be the team of the people can
Right.
work together as a team under changing circumstances. Many times we see companies who only seen the good side of life in their journey, and how do they behave when things are not as good? Yeah, very tough. But these are things that we focus on quite a bit. Can't be data driven, but as I said, but it is still something that we have tried to put a process, not just based on me meeting the founders and asking a few questions and then me coming to the conclusion, thinking I know how these guys are and I like working with them. That is how we all used to be honest. And
Yes.
we have to let go of. I had to let go of a lot of my ego to be able to understand that there is a better way of doing. And genuinely, I think Joylyn has been a lot of help and support in fine tuning and putting those processes in evaluating what teams can we work with, what we can't work with, who we can't work with. And that's a very, very important decision for us. It gets enormous amount of attention. It has a specific IC, investment committee process, just to discuss the people we are backing. No other
Wow.
distractions apart, no other data there. Um,
Wow. Thank you, Shri, for that. And now I really want to jump into the rapid fire round. And I think I said this the last time also. I need to figure out a hamper in this one. And this time we actually have two of you here. Okay, so first question: favorite True North investment success story or favorite True North success story?
I should go.
Go.
Ye- Yeah, I'm giving again a little bit of a banal answer, but I genuinely believe we shouldn't have favorites. Uh, uh,
Oh, no, Shri, we can't do that.
no, truly, I think the moment you start having favorites, that's the start of your doom. I feel.
Joylyn,
Yeah, I
your
was going to
favorite
say,
story.
yeah, I was going to say instead of a favorite True North investment story, why don't I share a favorite True North aspect? When we hire a CEO and leadership talent for our partner companies. So we have been focusing on fundamental values and not always on industry expertise. And we believe that this is truly unique to us. We have been, successful as evidenced by, track record or exit track record. And it has always been important for us to get someone with the right values, the right mindset, the right cultural alignment, as opposed to having done the same thing before. Of course, let me be the first to say that when we get both, it has also been exceptional. Okay, so if you look at some of the history, one of India's largest chain of maternity and childcare hospitals CEO came from a leading international wholesale company. A leading Indian, telecommunications company. And I'm talking about our partner companies, where the CEO came from an FMCG conglomerate. One of our earliest investments in, supermarket and grocery and convenience chain, CEO came in from a non-grocery background. So I think rather than focus on a favorite True North investment story, like a favorite child, I think it's this aspect that's important to me.
So, Shri, okay, for you, what is this one thing about True North that sets it apart? Your favorite aspect of True North?
I think this is what is coming off the bat, but I think at a personal level as well as at the firm level, the belief that we succeed only by making the people that we work with successful. That's the only path to our success. And therefore, I feel like that can reflect in the way we engage with our companies, way we collaborate. We are not the most important person in the room. So I think that is, I don't know whether it's unique, but that's what has kept me here. That's what drives me and makes me come to work and makes me feel excited about this.
It is very unique. I think it is an industry which is so largely dominated by individuals and individual brands, right? Personalities. So it's really a unique culture that True North has created, and a unique team that True North has built over a period of time. Okay, next question. Top priority when considering a new investment opportunity for Shri, and Joylyn, for you, top priority when considering a new hire.
I'll make it easier for Joylyn because I was going to say that it is actually I mean, the rest of the things are all data. Since we have spoken about this, is very, very. I mean, you may get it wrong just based on impressions. So I think management selection, that founder selection, I think is the key thing for us. Of course, I think in the order of preference, I mean, in the order of priority, we first have to get clearance from our investment committee on whether the subsector is worthwhile investing in or not, and then we go to management, founders, a lot of deep work, and third, then of course all the other things about company evaluation, all of those things. But in that order.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to talk. I'm going to take you on the new investment opportunity also and reiterate what she spoke about earlier. For us, it is the depth of diligence on the leadership piece, which is done in parallel to the business diligence. It's a very key aspect. It's done as part of the hiring function, but a small part. It's done in combination with a vast network of talent experts. They provide us with and validate the right level of diligence in underwriting an asset, but from a culture and leadership perspective. So just not CEO, founder, but the entire leadership, the next in line, covering values. It could be cohesion. It could be depth of execution excellence. So I think it's a top priority for us when considering a new investment opportunity.
Uh, Most rewarding aspect of leading DEI efforts at True North?
Okay. If I use a DEI lens, okay, personally, I know that people feel gratified, they feel satisfied, they feel safe in an inclusive culture. But when this is borne out, okay, and by that I mean when it's manifested, and how, people staying committed to the organization, free from unconscious bias or stereotypes, where they themselves encourage best practices, where there is a cultural sensitivity in the firm. For me personally, it's a euphoric high. If I look at it from a lens of diverse hiring, um, the question I also ask is if these people at the time of hiring feel like they can stay with the firm through thick and thin. And similarly, does the firm feel that they will be able to count on these people to give their full potential, regardless of the circumstances? I know I say this in a joking manner, but it's like a marriage with, inevitable ups and downs. And the question is, will both parties work on it?
Sri, for you? Because, everybody knows DI is top down and it is leadership driven.
Yeah,
So
no,
for
I think,
you,
yeah. I, I just feel like it is. We should not categorize this as a specific initiative. We should do what we would have done otherwise to, everybody as fellow human beings. And I think that's generally been the approach at the firm. That's the reason why we all feel like it's actually home, and not nothing something else that we are coming to. The approach has been largely that. So, I mean, if there is somebody else at home who's going through something, then you all pitch in, right? It is not like it is your responsibility. No, I don't care. No matter what you please deliver. That's not the approach that we have here, and we understand that it many times. I think one of the things this may be a more powerful a statement. When I first joined on my first day at True North, there are two things that Vishal told me, which I thought stood apart for me and maybe what kept me here. So one thing he said is, "This is how we do business is more important than how much business we do." That's one. Second, he said, "We will trust people blindly unless proven otherwise." Usually, it's the other way around. Most people that tell. Right. So I think that's probably what is a little different about True North. So when people see, so it's very. I have a team member, and he or she is telling me that he has certain problem at her home, and therefore she can't do. Uh, I can mistrust and say you still have to do. I can take it upon myself and finish if it is required, uh, or we find some solution. I think if you have trust, then you're not then second guessing. So I feel like there is a high level of that. I'm not saying that it's we are all people ultimately. I'm not saying that that's
Yeah.
the general way in every situation it will work, but I feel like there is a high level of trust in general. That's how we operate.
amazing. Thank you. My last question here is one piece of advice for aspiring investors.
Yeah, I stay away from giving advices, but I can share experiences maybe. So one, I think I didn't know what this industry was when I joined. I just joined because a lot of my fellow batchmates from my MBA class, who who were more achievers than me, I would say, have come into this and about 18 years ago. So I got an opportunity. I don't know how, but I landed up here. Uh, and I learned everything on the job. So it is really an apprenticeship kind of a profession, and it is. I mean, you said investors, I think, but I'm answering largely for private equity investors. It is a very long term business, and it is for people who can, I think, take both success and failure with equanimity. I think those are the people who can potentially live in this industry for long. Um,
Yeah.
Thank you. Joylyn, from you?
I'm just trying to think how to address this. Okay, so from a leadership standpoint, and I've been doing leadership hiring for a while now, Um, I think the last 5 years, I had to unlearn a few things. How I walked into a room and presented candidates, what I focused on. And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, but I had to do things slightly differently, and it for me that has stayed and become a part of who I am now. So, if you allow me to take a stab at this from a leadership standpoint, we
Sure.
find that there is some difficulty in choosing between complementary leadership qualities. People versus outcomes, cultures versus results. What we try to do at True North, and quite uncompromisingly, is first to establish whether the candidate is a good human being and values aligned. Okay. And if you then, after that, test for great capability, my learning has been that it always ends up being quote unquote right. And there is sometimes a temptation, I have it, to look for the right or highly capable person, and the imperative word here is and, values align. But in the medium and long term, my recommendation is when investing or when you're building teams, for sustainable success, it is very important to have both, but in the order that I mentioned. It's not the other way around, and it's never one over the other.
Thank you. Thank you. We've had such a wonderful conversation today. So much information, so much wisdom that both of you have shared with the audience. Thank you so much, Shri. Thank you so much, Joylyn. It was a pleasure having you, and cheers to outperformance.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
for the
Paul.
opportunity.
Thank you.